Deshaun Watson. Our Jonathan Jones is reporting that Watson and the Browns have agreed on a restructured contract that's going to ease some of the salary cap burden over the next few years. Watson will still get the $46 million owed to him over each of the next 2 seasons before that deal expires.
When the Cleveland Browns traded for Deshaun Watson in 2022, they were not just acquiring a quarterback, they were making one of the boldest financial bets in NFL history. The Browns handed Watson a fully guaranteed $230 million contract, something the league had rarely seen before. For Cleveland, the move was meant to end years of instability at the quarterback position. For decades, the Cleveland Browns had struggled to find a long-term franchise quarterback. Fans had watched a long list of passers come and go without delivering consistent success. When Watson became available, the front office believed they finally had a chance to secure an elite player who could transform the franchise.
So, Russ, we had reported a couple of weeks ago that Deshaun Watson would be back with the Cleveland Browns in 2025, and a lot of that, frankly, had to do with his contract. The fact is that they can't get out of it, and this was a huge contract, a 5-year, $230 million fully guaranteed deal. Because it remains fully guaranteed even with this contract adjustment, there's really no way for the Browns to extricate themselves from it if they wanted to.
At the time, Watson had already proven himself as one of the most talented quarterbacks in the league during his years with the Houston Texans. He had led the NFL in passing yards in 2020 and was widely considered a dynamic playmaker capable of carrying an offense. Cleveland's leadership believed that if Watson returned to that level, the Browns could become immediate contenders in the AFC. But the decision was controversial from the very beginning. Watson arrived with significant off-field allegations and had not played a full season in quite some time.
But Jameis Winston is a free agent. This is not a very strong free agent quarterback market. Right now, the Cleveland Browns are picking 5th in the draft with 2 games left to be played. They could obviously move up or down in the top 10 here in the final 2 weeks of the season. And so the Browns are going to have to find some quarterback help. Whether Deshaun earns QB1 by the start of the season in early September.
Critics questioned whether committing such a massive guaranteed contract to a player surrounded by uncertainty was too risky. Still, the Browns moved forward. The organization structured the contract so that Watson would be the centerpiece of the franchise for years. Ownership, management, and coaches all invested their reputations in the belief that this gamble would eventually pay off. At that moment, the plan seemed clear. Watson would become the long-term answer at quarterback, stabilize the offense, and lead Cleveland deep into the playoffs.
The only thing is with the Deshaun Watson stuff is like, he got a lot of money still guaranteed.
A lot of money.
Right? So I think he'll be the starter just because of that.
Yeah.
But I think he got a short leash.
No, the shortest.
4 or 5 games, like he ain't looking good.
Yeah.
You got to put Freaky Boy on the bench.
Yeah.
What nobody realized at the time was that this decision might eventually create one of the most complicated quarterback situations the league has seen in years. Almost immediately after the trade, the Browns' plan began to unravel. Instead of delivering the superstar production Cleveland expected, Deshaun Watson struggled to regain the form that once made him one of the league's most dangerous quarterbacks. The first major obstacle came before Watson even stepped onto the field. Due to league disciplinary action, he served a lengthy suspension that kept him out for a significant portion of the season. That delay alone disrupted Cleveland's offensive rhythm and forced the team to rely on backup quarterbacks while waiting for their newly acquired star.
Talking real terms, the way they're most likely to deal with it is they're going to restructure his contract with the new league year in 2025. Even if he sits on the bench, who knows, he could do what he did for the Texans and he plays.
When Watson finally returned, the results were far from what the Browns had hoped for. His timing looked off, his accuracy was inconsistent, and the explosive playmaking that defined his earlier career appeared to be missing. Many analysts began pointing out that a long period away from competitive football may have affected his ability to perform at an elite level. Then came the injuries. Watson battled multiple physical setbacks that limited his availability and prevented him from building consistency with the offense. Each time it seemed like he might find momentum, Another injury would interrupt the process. For the Cleveland Browns, the frustration grew. The team had committed one of the largest guaranteed contracts in NFL history, yet the production on the field was not matching the investment. Fans and analysts began questioning whether the Browns had made a historic miscalculation. Media debates intensified across sports networks. Some argued that Watson simply needed more time to regain his form after such a long absence. Others believed the version of Watson that once dominated defenses might never fully return. The Browns were suddenly facing an uncomfortable reality. Their franchise quarterback was struggling, the contract was impossible to ignore, and the pressure surrounding the situation was growing every week. And just as that tension was building, a new name began to capture the attention of fans and analysts across the league.
So the other thing I know you wrote an article about is how and when the Browns can get out of Deshaun Watson's contract without it kind of doing dramatic harm to the salary cap.
While the spotlight remained focused on Deshaun Watson, another quarterback quietly began generating excitement around the Browns organization. That player was rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders. Sanders arrived with enormous attention even before stepping onto an NFL field. As the son of Hall of Fame legend Deion Sanders, he had already built a strong reputation during his college career. Known for his accuracy, confidence, and leadership, Sanders quickly became one of the most talked about young quarterbacks entering the league.
If you'd have told me, let's see, we picked him on Saturday, right? Friday night driving home, y'all are going to pick Shedeur, I would say that's not happening. But we had a conversation early that morning, and then we had a conversation later that day. I think we had the right people involved in the conversation. At the end of the day, that's Andrew Berry's call. Andrew made the call to pick Shedeur. Just like who's going to start or what play we're going to call, it's Kevin's call. But that's Andrew's call. He made the call.
When the Cleveland Browns added Sanders to their roster, the move initially seemed like a long-term developmental plan. The expectation was that Watson would remain the clear starting quarterback, while Sanders learned the system and gradually adjusted to the speed of the NFL. But things did not unfold so smoothly. As training sessions and preseason discussions progressed, reports began emerging that Sanders was impressing coaches with his poise and decision-making. His calm presence in the pocket and ability to deliver accurate throws caught the attention of both the coaching staff and teammates. For fans already frustrated with Watson's struggles, Sanders quickly became a symbol of hope. Social media debates started appearing almost immediately. Some supporters began asking whether the Browns should consider giving the young quarterback a larger role sooner than expected.
They still restructure him. They restructure him again on the first day of the league year in 2026, and then on the second day of the league year, they post-June 1st cut him. So that's a case that financially it makes sense. And what that would do for the numbers is $37 million in 2025, $46 million in 2026, and then it's $89.5 million in 2027.
Analysts also started to take notice. Many pointed out that Sanders represented a different style of quarterback, disciplined, confident, and capable of running an efficient offense without forcing unnecessary risks. Suddenly, what was supposed to be a quiet rookie development story was turning into something much bigger. The presence of Sanders created a new layer of tension around Cleveland's quarterback situation, because now the Browns were no longer just waiting for Watson to improve. They were also watching a young quarterback who might be capable of changing the direction of the franchise. Once fans began comparing the performances of Deshaun Watson and Shedeur Sanders, it did not take long for the situation to evolve into a full-blown debate. Across sports media and fan communities, one question started appearing everywhere. Should the Browns continue relying on Watson, or should they consider giving Sanders a real opportunity? The debate quickly spread across television panels, podcasts, and social media platforms. Some analysts argued that the answer was simple. Watson had the experience, the contract, and the proven history of elite play. In their view, the Browns had to remain patient and allow their veteran quarterback more time to regain his rhythm. Others strongly disagreed. Critics pointed out that the Browns could not ignore the reality on the field. If Watson continued to struggle while Sanders showed promise, the coaching staff might eventually be forced to consider a change. For many fans, the argument was not about contracts or reputation, it was about performance. The challenge for the Cleveland Browns is that this debate places the organization in an extremely uncomfortable position. Starting Sanders too early could create enormous financial and public relations complications due to Watson's massive contract. But ignoring Sanders' potential could also frustrate fans and raise questions about the team's commitment to winning.
See, it's just all right. First
Back
day
to Ty Simpson.
Yeah, but Ty Simpson, man, as a prospect, though, I'm not a believer in him whatsoever.
Every decision involving the quarterback position will be analyzed, criticized, and debated. What began as a routine roster situation has turned into one of the most intriguing storylines in the NFL. Because in Cleveland, the quarterback discussion is no longer just about who starts the next game. It is about the future direction of the entire franchise. The biggest complication in Cleveland's quarterback situation is not just performance on the field, it is the enormous financial commitment tied to Deshaun Watson. When the Cleveland Browns signed Watson to a fully guaranteed $230 million contract, they locked themselves into one of the most rigid deals in NFL history. In the NFL, teams usually protect themselves with partially guaranteed contracts. If a player struggles or gets injured, the organization can eventually move on with limited financial damage. Watson's contract is different. Because it is fully guaranteed, the Browns must continue paying him regardless of performance. That reality creates a difficult dilemma for the team. Benching Watson in favor of Shedeur Sanders would mean placing a massive financial investment on the sidelines. Few franchises are comfortable doing that, especially when ownership has already committed so much money. The contract also affects Cleveland's salary cap flexibility. The Browns must carefully manage their roster decisions because Watson's deal takes up a significant portion of their available cap space. That limits the team's ability to sign additional star players or make aggressive moves in free agency. This is why many analysts describe the situation as a financial trap. The Browns cannot easily move on from Watson, but they also cannot ignore the possibility that Shedeur Sanders may eventually become the better option on the field. And that tension is what makes Cleveland's quarterback decision so complicated. While fans and analysts debate the quarterback situation publicly, the pressure inside the Browns organization is even more intense. Every decision involving Deshaun Watson and Shedeur Sanders directly affects the players, coaches, and overall atmosphere within the team. For head coach Kevin Stefanski, the situation is particularly delicate. Coaches are expected to make decisions that give their team the best chance to win. But in Cleveland's case, those decisions are complicated by financial realities and long-term organizational commitments. If Watson remains the starter despite inconsistent performances, some players may begin questioning whether the coaching staff is prioritizing contracts over results. On the other hand, if Shedeur is promoted too quickly, it could create tension with a veteran quarterback who still carries enormous expectations. Quarterback controversies often have a ripple effect throughout the locker room. Teammates naturally develop relationships with both players, and differing opinions can quietly divide a roster. Offensive players may prefer one quarterback style over another, which can further complicate the dynamic. At the same time, media attention only adds more pressure. Every game, every throw, and every coaching decision becomes part of a larger narrative about the Browns' quarterback future. For Cleveland's leadership, managing that internal pressure may prove just as challenging as solving the quarterback dilemma itself. The Cleveland Browns now face a decision that could define the franchise for years to come. If Deshaun Watson manages to return to his former elite level, the team may finally justify the massive investment they made. But if his struggles continue, pressure to give Shedeur Sanders a real opportunity will only grow stronger. At some point, Cleveland will have to choose between protecting their financial commitment or prioritizing performance on the field. and that decision will shape the direction of the team moving forward. For now, the debate continues. Fans, analysts, and players are all watching closely to see how this quarterback story unfolds, because in Cleveland, the biggest question is no longer just about contracts or hype. It is about who will lead the Browns into the future.